I'm Lama Christie. It's a great pleasure for me to be speaking here at the Wanderlust Festival. I think this is the first time that I've really experienced something like this festival. And I was riding the cable car yesterday, and the lady next to me was saying how she thought this was her heaven. She thought this was, she said, if Wanderlust could just be my reality all the time, 24/7, everywhere I went. If everywhere I went could be Wanderlust, we would be doing something right, And I was thinking about that today, and I was thinking about the power of love. That's what I really wanted to talk about today, is the power of love. And on this same tram, there was, I don't know if I could say, there was a kind of, maybe she was a little bit grumpy lady pushing us into the tram. And I'm sure that she was just a little bit brusque, And then, and she was kind of yelling at almost everyone. She yelled at me, she yelled at some other people, he was there. And then she was the one that was going to take us up the tram, she was like the tram meister. She was driving the tram, and like, instead of getting upset that this lady was yelling at people or getting bristly back, this guy, he got her name, and he's like, I don't remember her name, but say it's like Beth. I know it wasn't Beth, so it's he's like, I love you, Beth, shouts out in the middle of this really full tram, and then the whole tram starts taking the same chant and goes, I love you, Beth, we love you, Beth, and then we chanted, we love you, Beth, all the way up the hill, and by the end of the tram ride, she was like laughing and happy, and she was saying goodbye to everybody. It was like this amazing transformation happened, in the space of 5 minutes in somebody's heart. Because due to the power of maybe one person's love and then the power of everybody in the tram's love. It was like, it takes a little bit of courage to do that. And it feels like, to me, that this place is a sign of where we as a culture want to go. We want to evolve to maybe a country or a world even where this is the natural way of being with each other. And we've had really beautiful examples of this in our history, You can look at Mahatma Gandhi ji, the power of his love, kicked the British out of India, and he transformed a whole country, and got their power back, got the power of a nation back. And I would really like to see that in this country and in this world. I feel like there's a lot of people who feel like this world is, like this country especially, is going on a downswing, that there's some problems happening, and we need a slightly different direction, and maybe this is the direction that we can point the way to. The politics didn't work so well. Maybe it needs another message, and maybe we're the ones to give it. And so kind of taking that role of being the one to lead the way and to be the guide, like Mahatma Gandhi. I think we all want to be the kind of people that, you walk into a grocery store and you meet the cashier and you've never met them before, but your very being inspires them and brings them joy. Just like that 1 minute interaction where you're giving them something and they're ringing it up. Somehow, because you look at them in a certain way or you smile at them in a certain way, or you say something, that it changes their day. And that's what it means, I think, for us to be a yogi, is to be always in that space where we are pouring this inspiration and joy to other people. And we want to be that kind of being. We want to be that kind of being all the time. Unfortunately, we get our own grumpinesses. We get like the lady on the tram, periodically too. and I don't know, I come from a lineage, it's a Tibetan Buddhist lineage, the Gelugpa lineage of Tibetan Buddhism. And I studied under a Lama for many, many years, you know. I was actually glued to the side of my Lama for 12 years, which is a very traditional time for being an apprentice to the Lama. And I got to experience the power of my Lama's love in a way that I don't think many other people have. And the Lama's love is very unique in that it's like unwavering towards this goal of getting you to be that kind of being where you can really be a joy and inspiration to others. Sometimes the Lama's love is quite wrathful. Sometimes, you know, he did things that I thought were kind of mean, you know, but it was a training process because I was grasping onto certain habitual patterns that weren't good for me, that were actually harming me. And the Lama, seeing that, breaks it down for you, whether or not you like them that day or not. You know, they will do it anyway because they love you so much. And it's a similar way with parents, you know. Like the parents will, if the child is trying to run across a busy street with cars, the parents will bring the child back and scold them or maybe even spank them, regardless of whether or not the child will like them. You know, just in order to teach them something that's not going to harm them. And I feel like I've been given a great gift that way because I've been trained very carefully in the art of thinking of other people and letting go of that very, very uncomfortable, anxiety-producing, ulcer-producing habit of thinking about myself. So that's one way of getting to this place, like a training to get to a place of pure love where you can be that kind of inspiration. But I think another way is just on your own mat with your own self. You know, the Heart Chakra is the place of love. And right now, the Heart Chakra is blocked. In the Tibetan system, when they draw the channels, there's the central channel. Everybody knows the central channel, right? All the yogis, they know the channels. So it goes right down the back. And, you know, there are these loops in the two side channels. They go around each point, and we call them chakras, and we paint little pictures, and there are these pretty flowers. But in the Tibetan system, they're like choke points of our central channel. And the central channel is supposed to be this channel of love, of bliss, of wisdom, and we're not in it because of these two side channels running all the time. There's all this prana flowing in the two side channels. The heart chakra is the worst. There's 3 knots around the heart in our system. You know, so it's like literally there's something choking your heart at all points. And the practice of yoga, whether it's the Tibetan lineage or the Indian lineage, is to loosen the knots. You know, loosen those channels, those side channels, and learn how to get the winds to flow inside the central channel, inside our channel of wisdom, inside our channel of bliss. So what happens when we get the winds to flow inside the central channel? You get to this space where you become madly in love with every single being. And I think people have had this experience after a really good yoga practice. Everyone's like hugging each other. And like, you know, I think that's one of the reasons it's so blissful here is because people are doing like 3 classes of yoga a day. It's gotta be good for their heart chakras, you know, opening the heart. And everybody's blissed out because they're doing so much yoga. And you know, but it eventually, it kind of wears off after a while, unfortunately, and you have to go back tomorrow and do it again. So, the purpose of our training and our practice is to get to a point where we can maintain that state all the time, and we can actually even go to higher states. The other thing that we gain as our winds get closer in towards the central channel is we start to gain a lot of knowledge. We start to gain a certain kind of knowledge. I always ask people lately, I like this little rumination, how do you think people figured out which plants were medicinal and which plants were poisonous? I don't think that they went and tried them all. I don't think they went, oh, that person died, like, we'll just cross that one out, oh, that person got, like, something in their stomach. It's not that they went and experimented and tried every single plant and figured out which would work. There were certain people who could go into a forest and they could look at a plant and figure out just by looking at it what it would be good for. Because the knowledge is actually there. Like, almost you could say it was like written on the plant itself. But because we've got these blocks, these walls inside of our heart, we don't have access to that knowledge right now. But the other thing I like to think about is languages. You could get to a point where you could simply be around somebody speaking a foreign language and you wouldn't have to study it at all. You would just automatically understand what they were speaking to you. And it's because the information is in the words themselves, if you were only open enough to access them. And the most important part is that you could access other people's hearts. Because, plants are nice and language is nice, but a heart-to-heart connection with somebody else, you could start to learn how to read people's minds, for instance. And know what they needed, and know the exact thing to say to the grocery store lady when you walked in, and maybe she just had a fight with her husband, and you had to be really super gentle to her that day, or she needed, you know what I mean? Like if you could start to sense other people's hearts, you could start to give them exactly what they wanted at every given moment to help them throughout their day and throughout their lives. So I always have these dreams, these wild dreams where nobody ever speaks in my dreams. We're all like psychically connected and we just think thoughts and the other person knows what we're thinking, and I think we can eventually live in a world like that. And basically, our evolution is beings of pure love, totally perfect love towards everyone, and total omniscience. And the only reason we don't have that, I just kind of want to get you to this place where you have the potential right now. You don't have to like go anywhere and study anything or practice anything. All you have to do is break down walls inside your own heart, and then it will automatically be there for you. Like, all the information is there. It will pour into you. It's just that you're blocking it right now. All the love that you have is inside of you, but it's like you're blocking it from coming out. So it's like you're blocking the knowledge from coming in, you're blocking the love from coming out. And if you just let go of the walls, everything would flow. And it would just flow out to the ends of the world, to the ends of the universe. You would feel every single other living being on this planet. And you would love them all. And we would all be connected. The goal is to get the winds inside the central channel. The first time that you actually do that, because right now when we do our yoga, it's like we're getting close to the central channel. When we start to feel good on our mat, it's not like it's getting in there completely. They say in a normal being's existence, the only time that you get the winds completely into the central channel for just a second is either at the time of orgasm or at the time of death. So if you can imagine like the ultimate height of your orgasmic experience, that one moment or a couple moments of like, where you like something shoots up your spine, that's the winds getting in the central channel. But as yogis, we don't want it to last just for a couple seconds, because what happens is it goes in there and it closes up really, really fast. We want to actually go slower towards the wind getting in the central channel so that we could then maintain that openness and we can live inside that space of total bliss, basically. But that's just a side product, The side product of total love is you get total bliss along with it. So very first time that you actually manage in a yogic way to get the winds inside the central channel, they enter. That's what happens. The first step is they enter. The second step is that they enter and stay. And then the third step is that they actually start to dissolve. So it's like you enter into the central channel, they stay in the central channel, and then they just dissolve in there. And then what happens is a huge laya experience happens. Do you guys know what the word laya means? Laya means dissolution. And what happens to your mind is that, right now we've got this concept of a world, and then we've got this concept of like Squaw Valley, and then we've got this concept of this room that we're in, and then we've got this concept of our own bodies, and everything dissolves from the outside in. Like the concept of the world dissolved, and then the concept of your country dissolves, and the concept of the place you're in dissolves, and the concept of the room dissolves, concept of your body dissolves, until like you are deep within, like we call those conceptual thoughts. And every single conceptual thought that you have dissolves into your central channel until you are left with nothing but ultimate truth. It's a complete, and it's like the whole world disappears and you disappear. Every concept that you have of you goes into your central channel and you just go, and you're left with nothing but pure, unadulterated truth. And if you want to say, that's where you meet God. That's a way you can say it. That's where you meet God. That's where God lives. And then you come out and you watch the world being reformed as you descend from this ultimate truth back into your normal reality, and you actually watch yourself manifesting the world again. And it's like you're the creator, and you are manifesting your own self, you're manifesting your own body, and then it goes opposite way. It goes out from there. You watch yourself manifest the room you're in, you watch yourself manifest the whole world and the whole universe, and then you realize you have this very, very deep understanding, it's all me. This whole darn place, it's all me. It's all coming from my mind, it's all coming from my heart. I just watched it. I just watched myself manifesting my entire world straight from my heart. And then, because they're you, you can't help but love them. It's like all the people in your world are exactly the same as you. You manifested you, and you manifested you, and you, and you, and it's like you've watched that experience, and it's like this incredibly powerful love for them happens, and this clear light shoots out from your heart chakra, and it touches all of the beings that you just created, and it knows all their thoughts, and it knows all their wishes, all their deepest desires, and then you're bound to work for them for the rest of your life. Once that happens, you're bound to them because they're you. And people talk about, yes, he's me, she's me, but you don't quite get that grasp of, oh, I'm actually manifesting every single being in the universe and myself. I don't want people to get this misperception that you're the only person in the world and everybody else is an illusion. No, you're an illusion too. Like, you're conceptual thought too. It's like you have the same reality as everybody else. We're all a dream of your heart. So what's the implications of this? We created this beautiful festival. That's a good implication of this. Something in our heart has started to shift our country in a more spiritually enlightened way. And we are going in that direction. And everybody here should be very proud that they have manifested this place these last 4 days. I'm proud about it. I'm like, wow, look at what I've done, it's so cool. all the organizers can take credit, and so can you, you know, for this, like, all the beautiful people that you've met here and that you've seen here, and all the beautiful teachers that have come here and shed their light on people. And the other implication, though, is that, you know, every single starving mouth in the world is also you. And therefore, it's your responsibility to take care of them. And every single heart that's ever been broken is also you. And then it's your responsibility to comfort them. And how do we do that? You know, how do we take care of all the people that are in pain in this world? I think sometimes people prevent themselves from loving because they just feel overwhelmed, because they feel like they can't do it, because they feel like it's such a big world, and how do I have room to help all these people or love all these people? The neat thing about this particular system is that the best thing you could possibly do for everybody is to work on your own mind and your own practice. Like, to get on your own mat every day. That's the best thing you could do, because as you purify your heart, the manifestations of your world start to change. Because it's coming from you. You purify your heart, you purify your world. So it's easy to help everybody, and it's easy to love everybody. It's like this great freedom to be able to just love everyone, and without hesitation, without limits, without abandon, with abandon, I guess, right? You're free to give yourself to all other people, because it's exactly what you've been doing for yourself. But now you can do it for everyone. Now you can do your practice for everyone. And I think that's where I'm going to stop. I was supposed to ask if there were any questions. So, sit and think about them for a second.
How did you find your Lama?
Oh, that's, well, I was a typical prideful American who didn't think they needed a Lama. And I went to India, and I studied Tibetan Buddhism in Dharamsala and in Nepal. I went to Nepal. There's a monastery there called Kopan. It's the first, it was where the first Westerners were ever trained in Tibetan Buddhism, and I went there and I got my training there. But still I wasn't committed to a Lama. And I was having all these really amazing experiences there, all these good meditations, like really, really good meditations. I had never meditated before, and I thought, oh wow, I'm going to go back home and I'm going to tell everybody I know. I'm going to tell my parents, I'm going to tell my friends, all this, because this is the way we should all live. But then somehow by the time I got back home, it had all slipped away. And it's like I had to go through this really intense failure process, where I struggled to do it on my own and then found that I couldn't. So then that inspired me to think I want a Lama. And I made this plan. I was going to go to New York and raise enough money to go back to India, because of course, all the good Lamas are in India. That's what I thought. And lo and behold, I found my Lama about 5 blocks from my house in New York City. And I think it was the power of me finally realizing and being humble enough to realize that I actually really needed one that manifested him in my world. The Lama will come if you call them, and you really mean it. And you don't even have to go to India or anything. You don't. So.
What's a Lama?
It just means teacher, a spiritual teacher. But typically, you get called Lama after you have done an intense spiritual training of your own, and then start to get your own personal students and take them through the higher courses of Buddhism, which are the tantric courses, and give them certain empowerments, and then you get to be Lama. So, yeah.
I notice I'm a very feeling-based person, and I notice some people I'll meet, and everyone makes me feel a different way. And I was wondering if you can give me any information or any input about that, how some people you'll feel more comfortable with, or some people you'll feel more like this excitement with, or your heart will start racing, or just different feelings, you know? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to say about it. I know that you could use it to help people if you started to think of it that way, you know? Like, oh, this person seems a little bit aggravated right now, you know? And I need to be a kind of person right now to calm them down. Or this person seems a little bit depressed and I need to, like, lift their spirits with something. You know, I mean, if you're that kind of sensitive person, then I would use it personally to figure out how I could help them. Because you haven't been given that gift for no reason.
Right, that makes sense.
Yeah.
How do you do that without taking on their feelings? Like if I'm around someone agitated,
Sure.
I end up feeling that way.
Sure.
So how instead do you send calming instead of taking on their energy?
I worked with someone who was in a hospice environment, and they were very concerned about this question, obviously. And I think the idea is to picture yourself sending rather than taking. You know, when, like, if you're in a situation where their feeling is overwhelming your feeling, you need to be the giver rather than the receiver. If you're feeling that way, it means that you are very, very good at taking, and you're not using your power of giving so much. So you can do certain visualizations where you have light at your heart and you just beam it at them, you know. Stuff, it works, you know. So I think we have to wrap it up. Thanks, everybody, for coming. And